Hello everyone and welcome to my new video. And what is this video about? Well, it's time to get weird and experimental with the looper in Ableton in Live 12. However, you'll be able to do this in any version of Ableton that has the looper, I believe, probably going back 20 years. I think Live 5, Live 6, they introduced it or something. I can't quite remember. I haven't done many videos about the looper, and I really should, because I forget how really quite powerful and flexible it is, especially when you start using loads of them in one go. It's got some features in there that only seem immediately obvious after you try them for the first time, having never ever thought about it, which sometimes is a bit like Ableton. You do something and you just go, oh yeah, of course it does that. And one of them is that it will start playing stuff backwards the minute that you finish looping, all on the beat and with some very, very simple controls. Playing around with this last night, I was instantly transported back to my younger years when I was starting to get into experimental electronic music and sound design, and I was really fond of the Line 6 DL4 green delay pedal looper thing, and I would spend ages like just making loops on it, and it had this really cool thing where like when you put it onto the looper setting, it had like a built-in delay, so you could record loops with the delay on and then play them backwards and get the delay in reverse. And I used to love that. I used to spend so much of my early music was just that, things just going like zipping in and out, and I'm going to try and do that now, only way more high tech. So what I've done is made this sort of drum beat thing. Here we go. And I was going to explain in the video how I did this, but it actually ended up taking me about 30 minutes. But basically what it is a load of operators in a drum rack. They are all in the same choke group, and each one is just basically a different sound, and they're also being scaled randomly. So they're kind of making melodic percussion sounds, I suppose. And then they're going into an ODT, which I never really used, but I thought I'd use it anyway. Some beat repeaters to make them all go a little bit glitchy. And then I've got this time effects thing here, which is sort of sending the stuff into like the hybrid reverb and the echo, but their settings are being triggered by this other drum rack here, which has got expression control and MIDI envelope on to sort of flick the sound into the devices and also change some of their settings. You can see down here that this one's kind of randomizing the algorithm, the decay time and the size. No, thank you. And then for this one, we've got like the same thing applied to the delay. The delay time is being modulated, and then the envelope is flicking this input up. So you're basically, I'm getting this sort of FM dubby sort of thing. Yeah. It's sort of got some consistency to it in terms of its kind of tonality, but its texture, actually, it kind of goes places. So there's, for me, this nice blend of it being a bit psychedelic, but a bit kind of, you want to gravitate towards it a little bit, at least I do. So what I'm going to do then is I'm actually going to use two loopers to start with, and then maybe a third one later. But I'm going to put one before the time-based effects. So here's like the time-based effects, so I can close close that. There we go. So we can just see that we're going to have one looper going before the time-based effects, and then one going afterwards, because I'm going to play with time and space by recording loops, reversing them, and then applying reverb and delay to them, and then looping them again, and then reversing them so that the music's forwards, but the reverbs are backwards. I'm looping backwards. So to get started, we're going to set up this looper to get it to do what we want. So first of all, I want to go to the input output and change that to record over, I don't know what OVR means, overdub, over record, whatever, and stop. So basically, when I tell it to start looping, it's going to loop, and then it's going to play only the looped signal and not the original input signal, which I like very much. And then I'm going to tell it to, when it's finished recording, to play. And I'm going to tell it to record for 2 bars. And the quantization I'll leave at global, that's fine. And then I'm going to do Command K and map the number 1 key on my number pad to this record button there, like that. turn that off, and let's see if that's worked. So I'm going to hit number 1 on my keyboard now. Okay. There we go. So if I turn that time effects thing off now. Yeah. That's looping. But we can still apply those timing effects to that recorded loop. So if we listen to that for a bit. Got this very unsettling electroacoustic sound of like space constantly changing, which I like very much. So let's stop that a second. Let's clear that. Now, if I put this in reverse, when I start recording, it's going to record the loop and then immediately start playing the loop backwards, which I find quite interesting. So I'm going to hit record now. There we go. There we go. Now it's playing it backwards. So we've got the sounds backwards with all those forwards time-based effects on. So now we're going to get a second looper. We're going to put that after the time-based effects. And I'm going to have a similar setup. In fact, I'm going to duplicate this one because that's got the settings I want. So let's duplicate that one. And I'm going to assign the record button on this one to number pad key 2. There we go. And so, yes, when I hit 1, I'm going to start this one. And when I hit 2, I'm going to start this one. And I'm going to try and time them so I can do one after the other and do it quite seamlessly. So let's clear all of these buffers and start. So I'm going to record number 1. And now I'm going to record number 2. Yes, there it is. So this is like actually a really, really old trick, and you hear it a lot in sort of music and particularly scary movies where you kind of get that reverse reverb thing. And what they do, if you didn't know this, is that you get something, you play it backwards, you put reverb on it, you re-record it, and then you reverse it. So the original sound is forwards, but the newly applied reverb is backwards. And you can kind of do this in lots of ways in any DAW, just by simply resampling or bouncing something in reverse with effects on and then reversing it. But here we can kind of do it in a performance and kind of do it live, which I think is quite exciting. And with these settings, we can kind of introduce it as a feature just by simply hitting a couple of buttons. So I'm gonna do a new loop now. I'm gonna hit number 1. And then I'm going to hit number 2 now. So the first one finishes looping and the new one is looping. And then it's going to come to the end and start playing it backwards. But it's actually forwards because the first one is backwards. So all those time-based effects, those reverbs and delays, all get sucked into the sound. Let's try again. That one wasn't that good. So maybe what I could do then, because this drum rack here is kind of triggering these time-based effects, so maybe what I could do is just give them a little bit more probability. So I've got them well, they've got quite a high probability. But anyway, so each time a note happens, it sort of flicks the sound into those delays and reverbs. Give it another try. Let's go back here. Let's do a new loop. Yeah, it's kind of fun. And then what we could do is we could actually get a third looper and use the third looper to kind of catch the output. This is already getting quite a lot to manage visually, but I think we'll be fine. So in fact, no, what I'll do is I'll duplicate this looper, put this looper at the end of the chain. So I've kind of mixed this as I've went along, applied some compression and all that sort of stuff. So by the time it gets past this limiter, it's probably all going to be quite okay volume wise. So I can kind of use this looper as like a final capture without kind of having to resample. I would normally sort of just resample stuff, but the looper's kind of pretty good for that as well. So sorry, I'm just trying to think what I need to do. Yes, I need to assign this to number pad key number 3. And so now I've got my 3 fingers on 1, 2, and 3 on my number pad so that I can engage and disengage the loopers as and when I decide. So can I get them all in this? Yes, just about. All right, let's start again. So let's make a new loop at the start. And then a new loop halfway through. Actually, this one doesn't need to be in reverse, so... Okay, let's record a new loop on the 3rd one. Yeah. So, if I'm sort of experimenting with this and just kind of having a nice relaxing time listening to these sounds whiz past and I capture a loop that I like, I can drag that in there. And there it is. And if I solo this... Yeah, so if I wanted to start chopping that up or turn that into something else, I can. This is a very nice, relaxing way to find ideas. I'm liking it very much. I was up very late last night playing around with this. So let's make another new loop at the start. Making a new loop here. And then I'm going to engage this one. Now that one's looping. It's going to get to the end and go in reverse. And then when I'm ready, I can do this 3rd one and record the output of this one. Because if I didn't do that, then if I dragged this one, that one would be backwards. I don't want that. Yeah, fun. Doing it again now. You get all these little details in there that are sort of quite interesting. So we're kind of doing cascading. I guess it's sort of cascading looping, really. I don't really know what you call it, but perhaps you've done this loads of times and this is not news to you, but I sort of stumbled on this idea last night and got quite into it. Let's do a couple more. So engage the first one, which is going to loop and then immediately start playing it backwards. That gets reversed, goes through the time-based effects, gets resampled into this one, which is going to reverse it when it comes to its end, and then this 3rd one is just going to record the output forwards. Yeah. Let's do one more. Loop this one. Loop this one. And loop this one. Oh, it's too good. I just want to do more. I'll do one more and then I must stop. How long have I been going? 14 minutes. It becomes quite addictive. That one wasn't as good, but I'll keep it anyway. So But the other nice thing about using loopers is that they repeat, and repetition legitimizes. If you hear something more than a couple of times, your brain starts to accept that it is actually music, even if it's incredibly abstract. At least it does for me anyway. So, you know, out of context, one might listen to these sort of random bits of percussion and think, that's not music, that's just a load of noise. But then if you start looping it, if you start repeating it, your brain comes to accept that it is actually music. And then you can maybe start to enjoy it. So this is kind of a way of sort of finding things amongst all the chaos to be able to go, oh yeah, I identify with this moment here. I want to harness this and turn this. And then like your imagination starts to go, right, I'm hearing something there. And now I'm hearing what I want to go with it. And that's kind of how you can make music. Sometimes, not all the time, just one time. One time, do it that way. Or do it all the time. I don't know. Let's just do a couple more. Yeah, it's these type of like results that, whilst could be possible with normal sound design, if you had a very, very, very good synthesizer or a very good modular system, you could kind of create these effects that sort of sound like that they're kind of coming in reverse, but really they're just kind of being ramped up by something, but not really with reverb. But you've really got to get into the sampling and the looping to be able to achieve these types of things. So there you go. So that is some fun experimental way you can play with time and space using a handful of loopers by putting them in reverse and then looping them and then hearing them immediately backwards and then putting stuff on them. I'd be very interested to see what could happen if you did that with the insert looper thing. I've done a video on that a couple of years ago, something that's also quite interesting where you can kind of have the looper in a insert return. I can't quite remember. Anyway, maybe I'll revisit that another time. So there you go. I'm going to go and put this on my Patreon now, where if you'd like to support me there, you can download this set plus many, many more, all kinds of other things to do with Ableton and Max and samples and stuff like that. And you support the channel, which means you get more videos like this. Okay, there you go. Have a nice time. See you. Bye.